Happy birthday and rest in peace to the late, great J Dilla. The week starting February 5th, 2006 was as normal as any other week for me. I was looking forward to my birthday on the 14th, and my tax refund that used to get deposited into my account right beforehand allowed me to ball out for a weekend to celebrate. I'd be turning 24 that following week and still getting into the hang of being a dad as my daughter was turning 2 in a few months. I had a steady job I loved, I was living in Nashville, and I was enjoying everything that I could at the time. And that week was also special as I was picking up the new J Dilla album, Donuts. It was coming out that Tuesday the 7th, but due to my payday schedule, I needed to wait until Friday the 10th to cop it. Adult Swim had been playing bumpers between their shows with music from it, promoting it all the time. And after getting J-Lib, there was no question about buying anything with J Dilla's name on it. The whole week, I looked forward to copying it at FYE since I knew they wouldn't have it at the Target around the corner from my house. Target used to carry a decent selection of albums that had discounts on the week of new releases, but Stone's Throw never got much love in that store, and so I knew I had to get the good stuff at FYE. I even remember driving down there on the 7th to make sure that it was available for me to pick up that Friday, and there were plenty of copies to go around, so I wasn't worried. However, I found out later that I had every right to be concerned about them being gone when I got paid. James Dewitt Yancey, aka J Dee, aka J Dilla, died that Friday, February 10th, 2006, 3 days after his birthday, the day that Donuts was released. The moment I got off work, I almost got a ticket speeding to the store to grab a copy of Donuts before everyone realized what had happened, and luckily, I was able to grab my copy, and I still own it to this day. In the following months, I listened to Donuts a lot. I remember Questlove wrote fondly about Dilla on his MySpace page, saying that there were hints that Dilla knew that the end was coming and sprinkled little clues within the album. It made me dissect it front to back and appreciate the artistry in those instrumentals. Then I saw the profile on Stone's Throw's website about DJ Deckstar and his infamous J Dilla Saved My Life shirt. While I loved the beats I heard, I didn't realize Dilla could be life-changing, especially when he was only known for so much at the time. Little did I know that his t-shirt and short story about Dilla would open my eyes to the secret soundtrack I didn't realize Dilla played in my life. Since he passed, there's been no shortage of content about him online, including his production discography. I knew of his existence for some time, but I didn't realize the depths in which he was involved, and so many things fell into place when I started to see things about the songs he made. And that's when I realized I've loved Dilla since he produced Runnin' for the Far Side back in '95. Runnin' was one of those songs that became an anthem for me, just like I Wish from Skee-Lo. I was in middle school when both came out, moving around a lot, but primarily in Georgia at the time, and those songs resonated with me as a kid who wasn't the tallest, wasn't the coolest, and had an inner monologue that sounded like the things they were saying. Passing Me By could have been pulled from my head, so when Lab Cabin California included Runnin' and Drop, I felt like I'd found myself within this group that used Dilla's sound beds to keep me engaged. The next Dilla joint I fell in love with came just months later when Busta Rhymes' first solo album, The Coming, came in March of '96, and I could not get enough of Still Shining. The drum pattern was hypnotic and jarring, but everything else about that beat just kind of drew me in, and I remember reading the liner notes and seeing that J Dee had produced the song, but it was only kind of a footnote at the time because, I was just now hearing of Jay, and with the Far Side songs, I hadn't read the album credits as intently as I would in the future. So I didn't realize or see that he made them until right after he died. The same year that The Coming was released, I remember there being a piece in Vibe magazine about the Ummah being a new production team. Jay stood out there as the trio was basically a Tribe Called Quest without Phife, and I wondered if that was going to cause friction in the group going forward, another complicated story. The first big project was the new Tribe Called Quest album, Beats, Rhymes, and Life, and it seemed to have divided some fans, which is odd to me because, one, once again, it's a classic record to this very day that Jay directly produced, and two, so many freestyles were done in the aftermath of that album that came on for years afterwards. I don't understand how so many people hated the album, but also used all the beats to freestyle over. Like, what was that about? I always thought it was weird that people thought the album was too much of a shift when everyone used the beats from that album for their own gain. Regardless, I loved the album then and didn't realize Dilla was such an integral part of it. That same year, he produced the track Stakes is High for De La Soul and created another instant classic. I hadn't even realized it, but most of '96 was consumed by productions that Dilla had a hand in. He helped craft my own taste in music by being so malleable and not standing out as, being so easily identifiable that year. He snuck into my subconscious in the best way possible. Then I found out he was the one that was behind the Janet Jackson Got Till It's Gone J Dee's Revenge remix and more tracks from Busta Rhymes, the first Slum Village song I heard on that third Funkmaster Flex album, and of course, the last, at the time, A Tribe Called Quest album, The Love Movement. The biggest standout was on the horizon though, as J Dee handled the lion's share of my favorite Common album, Like Water for Chocolate, which includes one of my favorite beats, Heat. Sidebar, if you had the enhanced CD, the album gave you a link to Heat as an online-only video with lots of skateboarding and breaking, and I remember feeling like I was in an elite club being able to watch it, and now it's just on YouTube for everybody to watch. Through reading through his production credits, I realized that I listened to way more Dilla beats than I knew, and most stood out without knowing he was the common denominator. Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, The Roots, Slum Village. Dilla was around so many great musicians for such a long period, making things that had my head nodding and heart pumping over and over again. DJ Dexstar may have said that Dilla changed his life, but I didn't know he was so much of a part of my own. And unfortunately, I came to this realization after he was gone. In the years since his death, I've come to appreciate him even more alongside the rest of the world. When Dan Charnas released his book Dilla Time in 2022, I did a TikTok review for it. It's a really phenomenal book. Go check it out. And there have been documentaries as well as lots of footage to go around of his interviews and performances all over the place. On top of that, many of his legendary beat tapes have been posted online in various forums, which I like to vibe out to, especially getting some writing done. I love that his MPC is part of a Smithsonian exhibit and that Dilla Day was made an official day with a new street sign and proclamation in Detroit. There have been coast-to-coast celebrations just about every year since he passed, and let's not even talk about the intricacies of his production techniques that are often imitated but never duplicated. And there are hundreds of breakdowns and stories to go around. Dilla was a production genius, and so many people saw, heard, and were influenced by him while he was alive, and I'm glad they're carrying on with his work after all this time. He may not be around for the flowers, but we're still enjoying the donuts. So happy birthday and rest in beats to Dilla. Don't wait until February to play his music. Run it all year round, and if you're anything like me, you already were and didn't even know it. Peace to hip hop. Peace to you and yours. I'll see you on the next one.